Wish my hair looked a little better. Because that's what's important right now. Not any of this information that I found since the last time that we were together. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. So I did cover some of this because I was so excited about it. I did cover some of this in the spiritual classroom yesterday. In fact, a lot of things I covered in the spiritual classroom. And part of that was a robber's cave experiment, which I said I was going to get the book, and I got the book. Then I was going to be back here on Thursday, but I had to tell somebody some of the things. So I was back there on Wednesday in the spiritual classroom talking about the robber's cave. Now I'm not going to, I'm going to repeat some because there's always overlap and things like that, but I try not to repeat everything. And plus I don't even have the, the stamina to do that. So whatever. But, so I wanted to read to you some of the things. What I ended up doing here is I ended up shuffling through the book. So after I got out of our class, I said I was going to get this book from the shelf. So I did, and here it is. And there were so many things that were glaringly wrong, just glaringly misplaced information. That, that's a seed from my lemon water, that I had to report it. I just felt like I had to report it on my spiritual classroom. So I did say a lot. So what I did in that classroom was I built up and I stayed on topic with what we were talking about. Whatever it was, stress. Yeah. I'm going to say broaden and build, but we haven't even gotten to that yet. So it wasn't quite there, but it was a lead up to that whole broaden and build, pay it forward kind of concept. So we were talking about, and consciousness is what we were talking about, getting to consciousness. Anyway, and I'm in all of my classes trying to help us with discernment, right? So that's also what we were talking about in the spiritual classroom, but all my classes trying to figure out information that we have, even in the Bookless classroom, for example. So it's a Bookless classroom where I'm using books and we're trying to discern how much of this information is good information. Where are they getting it from? They're using quotes. Are they not using quotes? Who's the author? Does this author have a good reputation or doesn't have a good reputation? So all of those kinds of things that I'm looking at. And so even here with these authors here, I think that this B.J. White here is just a bunch of BS. Bill Hood, I also would suggest that's BS. O.J. Harvey, sounds like O.J. Simpson to me. And there was a physical, I'm just thinking about O.J. Simpson's reputation. And so as I'm getting into, so what I decided to do was I went and there was so much here, right? And I was kind of excited about it, but it was after class. So I was only going to get to so much of it. And then I had class yesterday at 8 o'clock in the morning, right here, right? So I was right here at 8 o'clock in the morning. And, so I was only going to get through some of it, and they have pictures here. So I really was, and some of the pictures are strange. I don't know. So I really was trying to go through it. I'm looking at those pictures again to see I don't know if they were strange or not. Trying to, just get an idea of, in particular, trying to get an idea of the methodology, of the method, so that I can discern whether or not this is a good study. And so the first thing I do is I look at I'm looking at the book, and I look at the preface here, and I'll tell you a couple things I noticed, which I did bring up in the spiritual classroom. So this is gonna be a little. So I look over here on this back, and I'm like, okay, Michigan State University. All right, so right there. So there's a little thing that comes up. Texas Christian University. So that's another thing that kind of comes up as a red flag. And although I'm not sure of what the Menninger Foundation is, it's familiar. The name is familiar, and I believe that foundation contributes to PBS. I'm not sure. So kind of a philanthropist thing, right? And in fact, this was funded by Rockefeller Foundation, approximately $350,000, something like that, in today's dollars, right? So back then, the study was conducted in 1954. Well, this was released in 1954. All right. So I'm going through it, as I said, and picking out some things, and then, but also not in order, because I can't get through it, and I only had a few hours to take a look at it, right? Because again, I need to go to sleep and get ready for class, and get ready for class, and then go to sleep for 8 o'clock class yesterday, right? So I'm flipping through it. I'm not getting enough information, but it's getting me more and more riled up, because there is not an ounce of real data here for their intergroup conflict and cooperation. Number one. Number two, in all of this, I am suspect of a lot of the people at Wayne State. Now, I did my, due diligence and getting my PhD, so I'm not worried about any of that. And not to mention, I'm an expert anyway, because I've been doing my due diligence for a very, very long time in this field, uncovering, really crappy data across the board, right? And it's not that it's not even in my own area of interest. I'm sure it is. I already know that some of that data is suspect in my own area of interest. And, I may even know, some of the stuff I even present to you may even be suspect, right? I haven't looked at all of this stuff with a fine-tooth comb, because we pay attention to how things get published, right? So the peer review process, we pay attention to. So if it went through a peer review process, I shouldn't have to go through it with a fine-tooth comb. Well, this did not go through a peer reviewed process. What it did do is it got very popular with certain ideology, and it's the same thing with Milgram's study, very popular with certain ideology. However, it was so unethical, so unbelievably unethical, that it was not getting published. This was the only way, right? So, but it made for such interesting psychology that the journals were later forced to publish it. Okay, so there's some, tidbit. And again, don't forget, O.J. Harvey. Haven't forgotten that name either. Since all of the interest that they had was in their sports skills. That was the only interest. Okay. Even though they matched them up according to this by personality, that was not their interest. The only measures that they took a look at were physical attributes and whether or not they had a history of playing sports. That's it. And oh, by the way, they also took all of these kids away from their parents. And this is what I was going to get to in the spiritual classroom. So here's the overlap that I didn't get to for the spiritual classroom, and it is this. It was in 2019 that Gina Perry was writing an article on this, and so she interviewed the people that were in this Robbers Cave study and found out that none of them knew that they were in the study. So since 1950s, right, until just a few years ago, so almost 70 years ago, again, 70 years, that's how long that they said that they wanted to hide in this. Oh, so this is just so rich, so rich. That's how long that the pharmaceutical companies wanted to hide all the data for the COVID virus too, was 70 years. That's how long the tobacco industry had the data held um, quiet for, was 70 years as well. So it seems like this is the magical number. No wonder that the pharmaceutical industries were, or Pfizer in particular, was petitioning the courts to hide the data. What is this, 70 years now? Oh, 70 years? Now we can come up with the data. But what do? The whistleblowers' life is on the line, right? Because nobody else has the balls to come up with the data. What the F? What the F? And I'm not kidding you, as you can see. So let me put up a picture here that I just, right in between class, right before class, I found this picture. And because what I said on the spiritual class was this. I said, who is that? I said on the spiritual class, so this is, I gotta tell you who that is yet. I just want you to look at it and see who you think it is. Some of you know, some of you in politics are going, I know who it looks like. Some of you know who it looks like and you know who it is. I did not know who it was. That's why I had to look up the picture. I didn't know how this person looked, but I do know who he looks like. So this started putting all the pieces of the puzzle together for me, Scientologists. Holy moly. So I'm seeing actors all over around me, right, whatever, and I can see that I also have got some certain qualities that certain actors might like. And certain actors that are also in Scientology that also use their they sex traffic is basically what they're doing. They're sex trafficking is absolutely what they are doing. And because they're getting information about people in order to get them sex trafficked. I saw, what's her name, Rima, whatever her name is, try and do it to Joe Rogan. What was she doing being so over the top flirtatious with him? She looked like she was trying to trap him, just like people are trying to do to me. And for what purpose? For what purpose? Well, okay, sex trafficking. All right, we got that. For what purpose? Who? Well, it looks like it's coming right down the pike, doesn't it? It does look like it's coming right down the pike to me. Let me tell you what I saw on a vehicle, a truck in front of me. So if it is to this great big popular degree that it could be, right? Sitting with these Scientologists right there, trying to entrap me into saying something about my political persuasions, which are so obvious, but can be twisted into anything if people are looking for the cues, right? If they're looking for the cues. And that really is what this is all about. It's all about, what do your perceptions drive you to believe? And if communist China is going to bait you with all kinds of different perceptions, propaganda, right? Which is what this guy, Sherif, studied. Words related to propaganda. So isn't that who is that? L. Ron Hubbard. That's who that is. You know what it looks like? Who he looks like? Governor Abbott. Do you know who's around the corner? Stephen Meyer from Discovery Institute. Do you know whose name is on the back of this? S.B. Sells from Texas Christian University. Who is who did they infiltrate here in Novi? Oak Point Church. What do you believe is happening? Armageddon? End of the world? Hey, listen, it is. It's just not in the way that they're feeding you. They're not, they're feeding you, right? Somebody believes it's 420 at 420 today. Somebody believes it's that. I don't know who does. I don't know who does. I believe they think it's the end of me. Like sinister, where's my sinister guy up there? Do I still have my shorts up there? Come on. I know I do. Hold on. Hold on. Here's me. Hold on. A world of Simon Bar Sinisters. I cannot believe it. I thought it was Bar Sinisters. I don't even know what I used to. Anyway, yes, that's where we're living in. Just sitting over there trying to get dirt on people to get them to do what they want them to do. That is sex trafficking. That is sex trafficking. I don't care if it's just for you. You know exactly what those other people are doing, and you know why they, you know what? We know why they know, because they've got something on you. And in all these years, you can't find something on me. 20 years, oh you, and you haven't been able to find something on me. Keith, you haven't been able to find something on me sitting over there. And so what do you have to do? You have to twist my words. What happened to Lynn Anderson? And also, Michelle, who killed Kenny? How about that? How about that? Shelley, or should I call you Shelley, with 4 kids from 4 different dads. And as Chris Rock was saying, I don't know who you're talking about, but you were saying, and they have abortion after abortion after abortion after abortion. Who? Those people who are doing those testing, the people who are doing the experiments, who are those people who are doing experiments? Well, I'll leave that up there. So again, who are these people? Who are these people? You SOBs? Show yourselves. You SOB. Oh, let me get to this. Show yourselves, you SOBs, because we know what you are capable of, OJ Simpson. I'm not saying you're OJ Harvey. I don't know who the hell that is. I'm just saying. They both start with OJ. It's all I need. Sometimes. Speak up. So, here in the contents, this is so interesting to me. Here in the contents, it says, preface to original. Oh, it does say preface. There we go. And then we've got the preface. I didn't think that said that in there. Preface to the original release, 1954. This is a 1961 edition, all right? So here we've got the new 1961 preface, which is written by Mustafa Sherif himself, all right? You know, or who knows with those scientists, whether it was a himself or herself. Honest to gosh, I don't know. Because Lynn Anderson, the same way, right? Was Lynn Anderson a him or her? I don't know. Nobody gave me that answer either, which I think is very interesting with this whole, I think there are twin studies that they have been just effing around people left and right. And what I think ended up happening in all these twin studies is they lost track of the DNA. And my guess is that what they wanted to do was that the white supremacists wanted to find the harlot, and the Jews wanted to find the savior, their savior, right? That's what I think. So they've been following, right, history, whatever. But just like the Ark of the Covenant, we're in spiritual world right now for a minute. Just like the Ark of the Covenant got lost. Somebody said it was in Turkey. The last place it was, but they won't let them dig in Turkey. That's just coming to my memory right now. But just like the Ark of the Covenant was lost, so too was the lineage to explain or reveal, you know, what more is going on here. All right, so And I read this part again, so there's some overlap there, but there's some new stuff. So I did not show Governor Abbott's. I'm sorry, L. Ron Hubbard. Sorry, L. Ron Hubbard. Well, I said looks like it's not Governor Abbott. That is L. Ron Hubbard. Where is Scientology headquarters? Isn't it in Dallas? Which is where the Discovery Institute also is, which is where we're getting the BS from Jay Richards and Guillermo Gonzalez in order to fit their own agenda while they sit over there and murky up all the waters that really have to do with finding the lineage. That's what Discovery Institute is doing. And my guess is Discovery Institute is Scientology. That's my guess. Discovery Institute is Scientology. But I am telling you that I know that John West has been doing unbelievably great work there. So he has infiltrated, in my opinion, Discovery Institute and Scientology. And what? They must have something, because that's the way Scientologists work, right? They get something on people, and that's what they're trying to do. So, Keith, over at OU, I think you're a bigger name in Scientology. I think people are trying to, because they know there's money on board over here. And there's not just one person, right? That's one person in the game. But what that one person in the game tried to get was me to sound like I'm a communist. Anybody who knows me, any history, but you could, if you found enough dirt on people, down the line, which I'm sure you are getting, because there's a lot of dirt on people, right, that I'm sure that you are getting, then you could likely get people to say anything you want them to say. Isn't that how you work? Science, technology, engineering, mathematics. Science, technology, engineering, mathematics. We want to make machines. Who wants to make machines? I'm sorry, who wants to make machines? Communist China. We'll get to that in a minute. So this is what Sherif says in 1961 that he did not say in the 1954 preface. The experiment could not have been realized without the utmost dedication and concentrated efforts beyond the call of duty of my associates whose names appear with mine on the title page. So he doesn't name his associates here. In this preface, he doesn't name his associates. Why? Because if we do any investigation on O.J. Harvey, who do you think we'll find? Because B.J. White? Really? B.J. White? What does that tell me about this? Do you want to know what else I found in here? Just on that, just as an asterisk. I heard that they used racial slurs against the other group. The Rattlers. The Rattlers. So how would they be using those specific N racial slurs when all of these boys were supposed to have come from middle-class Protestant families? How do you suppose that happened? What do you suppose the name, the Robbers Cave? What Robbers Cave? What Robbers Cave? So here, Sherif has put together a lexicon of what he considered to be basic words. So that's what they have here. They have the lexicon, because you can see that those are words that are underlined here. Leadership, in-group relations, between groups. Why do you have certain words underlined here? What is the purpose? So this is creating for you, with this underline, a read between the lines kind of story here, so that we aren't really getting the exact experiment. And we already know we're not getting the exact experiment because these measures are non-existent. Their measures are non-existent. What is this? What is this? Absolutely nothing is what that is, because you don't have any measurements over here. We can see this here. And yet they have hours and hours of verbal audio tapes, as well as some some videotape as well. So hours of videotape. Yet this is what they come up with in their reports. This is what they're reporting. That during the discussion of how to spend the treasure hunt reward of $10, by the way, they had to pay for a movie. Their parents didn't know that they were watching a movie. Did they report the movie? What does this person say? An impressive lesson in the design and execution of intergroup research? Really? You showed 11-year-old boys a movie and you didn't report the movie? Really? You SOBs? Really? Really? Here. So, suggestions and remarks were counted. Results. To Mills, 16. To others, 1. At large, 6. And then general suggestions during discussion of t-shirt and flag insignia were made to Mills, who accepted some of them but largely determined what was to be done himself and got group approval. What kind of information is that? You counted the number of suggestions that were made? That's what you did? You counted suggestions? What does that possibly, how could that possibly give me anything I need to know about intergroup conflict and cooperation? You bunch of liars. You bunch of liars. A book filled with just what? Report on what? Sexual abuse. That's what this is. This is hidden language for how you abused 11-year-old boys. And without a doubt, there was sexual abuse involved. That's what happened here, Mustafa Sherif. That's what happened here, Carolyn W. Sherif. Tell me I'm wrong. Show me the data. Show me the data that you collected. Come up here and stand up for yourself and show me the data that you collected here. So, right around the same time, 1956. This was 1954, data released in 1954. This is, we're in front of the Senate committee now, right? Okay, so this is, if I didn't say, I said it in the last class, what we were coming up to, I did not read it. So what do I have here? I pulled this off the shelves. So again, there was a timing and a spiritual thing I talked about in the last spiritual class about, you know, that there are, people put this in my hands. But this was 25 years ago, 20 years ago that they put this in my hands. Over 1998. So 25 years ago that they put this in my hands. That Pat Seipel over at Wayne State University said, Annette, you can have all of the books from Lynn Anderson, who mysteriously ended up dying in a freak car accident after a freak snowstorm in April. All right? It could have been 420. I don't know. I don't know. But I do know it's right around this time. It was a freak snowstorm in April. And I can't find anything on Lynn Anderson when I did a search for Wayne State and Lynn Anderson. But the country singer Lynn Anderson did come up, which I did find interesting, especially with her terrible, distraught past. That's the only word I'm thinking of right now. I want you to also see here that what I'm talking from is something that came from the library. So it's clear that these are not confidential hearing reports. It came from the library. And so here it was an overnight library. So it appears that Lynn Anderson, and I don't have the date here. I wish I had the date for, so maybe Lynn took this out of the library on, I don't know when, right? But it was only an overnight. So why this was in Lynn Anderson's collection when this is an overnight library book, I don't know. I don't know. Did he keep it? He, she? I don't know if Lynn is a he or she either. I remember trying to ask one time and I never ended up getting a straight answer. So I assumed Lynn was a he, but now I think I'm actually doubtful. I think Lynn may have been a she. Okay. So all right, so what am I reading from? This is Communist Interrogation, Indoctrination, and Exploitation of American Military and Civilian Prisoners. All right, and then this is a 3-day. So that's the title of this. Communist Interrogation, Indoctrination, and Exploitation of American Military and Civilian Prisoners. So I grabbed this from the book selection, the book collection. That's like the book collection that Lynn Anderson had, that Pat Seipel let me in the room, and only me, to get the books. She said the rest of them were being thrown out. I felt like a pig having all those books. And then that's when I looked and I found also part of the collection 4 videos, 2 on Jung, 1 on dreams, 1 on interactive or psychoactive drugs, marijuana, another one on the violent mind, and I think that was it. So 4 videos. Oh no, and the other one that was entitled PBS documentary on Hitler, which I had been looking for the last 3 weeks and couldn't find. I see it on my shelf, but I'm sure that was not the PBS documentary. It was something else. And I don't know, but it looked like it had lots of original Hitler video is what it looked like it had. So, and this whole thing with the memory thing and what they are trying to do by putting people's memory is all psychological, by putting some things in people's memories. It is possible to put suggestion and then see if there's a thought to run with, but you'd have to have so many avenues. Is it possible to see that person does have a memory there because there are so many avenues that are activated? Yes. And what about activating memories after you just saw a bunch of movies on this stuff? Well, they would be activated by the movie, and so the impressions would be in one direction, which would have to do with visual, and seeing all the details and things that just aren't possible when you actually have a memory. So to think that you could put a memory in somebody's mind because they watch videos, you could if they watch it over and over and over again, certainly, right? Certainly. But to watch a video, a documentary on, something like, Hitler, you're not talking about the same kinds of things that you're trying to put in somebody's mind as far as communist tactics. But I could read about communist tactics, right? And there are obviously going to be some memories that are available there if somebody were to, test my memory. So if somebody were to try and put me in a predicament, let's say, right, Keith or Mark or Tom or whatever your name is, try and put me in a predicament, right, with information, you might be able to, exploit me by editing video in particular ways and getting what you wanted. And if I want to be specific, I will be specific. You wanted to get that information that I said on imperialism, right? That's what you wanted to get. I know it's what you wanted to get. You're just a bunch of girls. And what I mean by that, I don't mean to derogate women, because I am one, and a very feminine one at that. I'm just saying you're just acting like a bunch of weaklings is what you're acting like. A bunch of effing chickens in cages, smelling other people's blood and standing in the effing cage while you smell other people's blood. That's why they stay in the cage. That's why, because it's not their blood. They figure it's not going to happen to them. I think that's the reason why. White Tiger movie. I think that's the reason why. Communist interrogation, indoctrination, and exploitation of American military and civilian prisoners. We can see again, this is from the library. It says overnight hearings before the Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations of the Committee on Government Operations, United States Senate, 84th Congress, 2nd session, June 19th. Interesting. 20th, 26th, and 27th, 1956. Printed for the use of the Committee on Government Operations. So if somebody were to say, and she had classified documents in her home, wanted to characterize me as that, it's possible. Because apparently we can classify documents according to the communist Donald J. Trump. We can classify them with our minds, and so we got the story here. So this is Communist Interrogation. I already said that on Tuesday, June 19th, 1956. United States Senate, Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations of the Committee on Government Operations. The subcommittee met at 10:20 a.m. pursuant to Senate Resolution 188, agreed to February 16, 1956, in room 357, Senate Office Building. Senator John L. McClellan, whose name came up, I know, today in our reading this morning in our Bookless classroom. Present was Senator John L. McClellan, Democrat from Arkansas. Chairman Senator Joseph McCarthy, a Republican from Wisconsin. Senator Carl Munt, Republican from South Dakota. And Senator George H. Bender, Republican from Ohio. Present also were Robert F. Kennedy, Chief Counsel. James N. Juliana, Chief Counsel to the Minority. Donald O'Donnell, Assistant Chief Counsel, and Ruth Watt, Chief Clerk. Ruth Y. Watt. What are these names? Honestly. Donald F. O'Donnell? Donald F. O'Donnell? Ruth Y. Watt? Chairman, the subcommittee will come to order. And this has been on my shelf for 25 years. This has been on my shelf for 25 years. Got it from Lynn Anderson. The box of stuff there. Who died in a car accident that was suspicious. At least that's what I was told. I don't know. That's what I was told. Okay. So I'd be looking up the singer Lynn Anderson and Pat Seipel. That's all I'm saying. Because Lynn Anderson had a very traumatic past, is what it looks like. And so I'm just saying, this is Lynn Anderson's, who maybe needed to disappear, and Pat Seipel, I don't know. That's all I'm saying. Just giving you some names. This morning, we are beginning a series of public hearings concerning the treatment of prisoners, both civilian and military, by various communist governments. The subcommittee further expects to show the techniques that are employed by the Soviet Union in the handling of those prisoners accused of crimes against the state. All aspects will be fully explored, including the arrest procedure, the detention of the suspect, the imposed physical isolation, and the mental pressures that are applied. I was going to say here, which I didn't get to, Robbers Cave. One of the things that they kept, that was an underlined word here all the time, was hideout, hideout, hideout. But nothing is reported about the hideout, but the name is Robbers Cave. They were begging for food. They were begging for their supplies. They had to build their own latrine to go to the bathroom. They had injuries reported, a hand and a foot. They had 2 of the kids have to leave camp early. What is going on here? What were they being robbed of in that hideout? Read between the lines. You got to read between the lines, because obviously they are reporting nothing of what happened. So you have to read between the lines. Okay. Because of the large number of prisoners, both civilian and military, that have been held by Communist China over the past 5 years, the subcommittee expects to place particular emphasis on the treatment of these individuals. During the 3 years of the Korean War, some 7,190 Americans were captured by communists. Approximately 1/3 of this number died while in communist hands. Of the 4,428 that survived and were repatriated, over 95% were subjected to a well-planned and well-organized campaign to destroy their belief in God, their loyalty to the United States, and their faith in the democratic way of life. What is happening to you individuals who are who are part of the Patriots, who are part of QAnon, who are climbing on our Capitol building? What is happening to you? I am declaring that Donald J. Trump is acting like a communist and in very communist ways, starting with the fact that he formed a coup in order to overthrow the peaceful transfer of power. By what? by using these tactics. So those individuals who are climbing all over the Capitol, who are claiming everybody else is sheeple, are part of the 95% that were subjected to a well-planned and well-organized campaign to destroy their belief in God, their loyalty to the United States, and their faith in the democratic way of life. And I am here in the spiritual classroom to show you. And I know that you are looking at me and you're looking at, I did that, and I realize that's part of your symbols, isn't it? It is interesting the way that God works in mysterious ways, isn't it? Who are the last children I'm supposed to be collecting? You, QAnon, you, patriots, you, law enforcers, you, legislatures, you people who are in charge of the law, you Levites, right? Back in the day. That's who I'm supposed to, because you were in charge of the law and you saw it broken in every way. You became non-believers. What did he do? Sherif implemented these clearly communist tactics, just like they're being implemented in the great experiment that's going on here right now. The great experiment that's taking place for the hearts and minds and souls of the American people. By who? By who? By who? By communist China. By communist China. In what ways? In what ways? This is what I said. This is what I was saying before when I got cut off. In what ways? Well, one of the ways would be by turning Japanese into kamikazes. And they could easily do it because we wouldn't be able to tell the difference between Japan and China. But there may have been a way that they drugged people to do this. And this is what I was saying. I didn't finish that thought in the spiritual classroom. So some of this drugging that has been going on, I was drugged before when I got my DUI. It's neither here nor there, right? Because I earned the DUI, so I got it. People know it. I'm not I'm not shy about talking about it, and it was a very, 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 very low point in my life. Very low point in my life. Not my lowest, but it was a very, very, very low point in my life, and not my lowest. And not my lowest either. So, but I realized I was drugged that night, and I realized that the courts knew that I was drugged. They had to have known. I realized that they had a drug report, so they knew that I was drugged. That they didn't bring it up at the first whatever here appearance. So what is the drug doing? This is what I didn't say in the spiritual classroom. Whatever is going on, it's got to do maybe with sugar levels or whatever that we know make people aggressive. It probably has something to do with Ambien, because we also know that people on Ambien are also very aggressive. So my guess is, somebody could do a deep dive on this, but my guess is that Ambien and alcohol lead to a drop in blood sugar levels, and that is what creates this rage. And that individuals who may be doing it, I don't know if it has something to do with Destroy Your Dick December. Are you using Ambien? Are most of you are you using Ambien? QAnon people, patriots, are you using Ambien in your Destroy Your Dick December? Are you doing that? And when you think about this again, these are just clearly psychological game on this authoritarian, which is a fascist movement, right? It's a fascist movement, and it is a fascist movement. Fascism supports communism. That's just the way that it is. We use a lot of different words so we don't understand what we're saying, but fascism is communism. You thought it was socialism because Hitler was a Nazi, but here, the right here in this country, white supremacists are looking at Hitler as being, their leader, which is quite interesting with me as well, isn't it? You're sort of wondering about me, aren't you? Aren't you? Isn't that interesting? I find it interesting. I have to sneeze. I find it interesting because when have I ever watched here? Orny. Oh my gosh, he is so funny. That stand-up comedian is so funny. Okay, look it up. All right. Anyway, let's get back to this. I started with another thought right there before I sneezed, but we're all good right now. So we've got 4,428 that survived and were repatriated. Over 90% of the were subjected to well-planned and well-organized campaigns to destroy their belief in God, their loyalty to the United States. Certainly, those people who were climbing on the Capitol building, I know many of them. All right, I don't know many of them. I know the people here locally who are there, right? And I know that they claim to be, Christian or believers in God, but that certainly is by far, they are unknowledgeable about God. And that is not what comes out of their mouth that they profess first. It comes only if you interrogate them about their beliefs in God, and then they call themselves a Christian. But it has nothing to do with their behaviors. It has nothing to do with their movement either. God. So it's clear to me that, well, number two is very clear, that their loyalty to the United States has been destroyed. The people were climbing on the Capitol building, the insurrectionists. And then also, I could see that they had no real belief, no foundation in God whatsoever. They may have claimed it, but they had no foundation in God. They didn't go to church. They didn't study the Bible. They didn't know half the things I teach, to the young kids that have to do with virtues about God. Or do you even know the stories? Do you know the story of Joseph and the many-colored coat? Do you know why he had many colors on his coat? Do you know why? I don't know if there's a reason. I know the reason that it was a beautiful coat, though, right? And it could have been, right? 10 commandments. Maybe they had 10 colors. Who knows? I don't know. I'm not sure about that. So it sounds to me like they're having a hell of a time trying to get them repatriated, as in the same way that they're having a hard time getting the people who were climbing on our Capitol building repatriated. They call them patriots. They had to get really repatriated. Because again, who you are then, all right, and their faith in the democratic way of life. So with all the questions that the insurrectionists, right, and right-wing fascists is what you are. You have to call a spade a spade. It's what you are. All right? All of those things that define a fascist, that's what you are. And it also defines communism. So you may not know it, but they are inoculating you into a communist way of life. And you are going, woohoo, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert. You're like, woohoo, woohoo. You don't even know what the F is going on. We expect to establish that the Chinese communists, by their immoral, unethical, and illegal methods of interrogation and indoctrination, attempted to create in the prison camps an environment of fear, confusion, and mutual distrust. Oh, look at where the experiment is going, because this is China. And I'm going to say something else. I said it years ago, a couple years ago after Trump, that we are getting set up to say, people in America, what do you want? And you know what I'm here? I'm the teacher to help repatriate you, to show you that a Dem can be a Christian woman who stands by her values, and that if it looks like I doesn't, it is under duress, that it looks like I don't. It's because Scientologists very specifically are trying to make things look differently. They are using communist techniques, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, has nothing to do with God, infiltrating our universities to teach us this kind of stuff. And they're using people who say, I won't be a sheeple, to be their sheeples. It's so clear. It hurts, right? The truth hurts, but we cannot let this happen. Sheeple. Call a spade an effing spade, would you please? I'm going to say it again. We expect to establish that the Chinese communists, who was Donald J. Trump buddying up with? Kim Jong-un? What? From where? What? Who did what to our American soldiers? Brainwashed them? The 4,428 that survived, they brainwashed? That's who he's buddying up with? That's who you're climbing on the Capitol building for? I am getting the last of our children. The last. Where are you going to be? What side are you on? What side are you on? Are you planting communist evidence into the hands of a clearly democratic, feminist, teacher, widow, psychologist, because you don't like what you have to say, the discourse, you don't like the discourse? That's when we lose democracy. When you don't want to hear the discourse, that's when we lose our democracy. I read that someplace in one of these books that I was reading, probably in That True Believer by Eric Hoffer. By these series of hearings, we expect to expose not only for the people here in the United States, but for the people throughout. So this is why this cannot possibly be, what do you call it? Those documents, secure documents, whatever you call it. This can't be, because it's for the people here in the United States and for the people, I can't get this page, and for the people throughout the rest of the world, that it is the aim of the communist system to not only control the land areas of the world, but the minds and souls of the members of the human race. So agriculture, Michigan State, Andrew Jackson, Big Ag, right? Michigan State, Don Johnson. Don Johnson, you were here before too. Here in Michigan. Interesting. The Don Johnson from Miami Vice was here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, quite a few years ago. I was in at a bar, walking out as I was walking in. Ugh, what a shame. Good looking guy. All right. I don't know if I stopped. That it is the aim of the communist system to not only control the land areas of the world, but the minds and souls of the members of the human race. And they're doing a pretty good job with those people who climbed all over the Capitol building for a communist and communist lover. The Americans and other free peoples can best combat this so-called brainwashing weapon of the communists by understanding its techniques and methods. We hope these hearings will make some progress in that direction. Who was your first witness? So this is, so Mr. Counsel, who was your first witness, and counsel is Ted Kennedy, right? No. Oh my gosh. No. Oh my gosh. Oh, who is it? Oh, Robert F. Kennedy? What? What? Irish Catholics in the White House? Were they the big C word? Isn't that funny? The big C word? That's funny. That's kind of funny. Like we say that about the big C word. Were they the big C word? Are they the big C word in both respects? Oh my gosh. So Dr. Harold Wolf. Oh my gosh. Were they part of that Musafa, whatever, Sherif's Robbers Cave study? Robbers Cave study? Robert Kennedy study? Wow. Hey, listen, you know, you can be a Dem and still know the truth about whoever the people are. If he was a commie, I don't know. Somebody better speak up. Say, that's blasphemy. It's a Kennedy. Who the hell is Harold Wolf? Dr. Harold Wolf. Will you come around, please, sir? You do solemnly swear. Yep. Okay. All right. Mr. Chairman, Dr. Hinkle will also perhaps have something to say on the subject. So this is what Robert Kennedy says. So this is Robert Kennedy. Dr. Hinkle I thought Kennedy was the chairman. I'm sorry. I want to make sure I'm getting these people straight, but you can all find it. I'm sure this is widely available. Or planted in my house to make me look like a commie when I went and started getting rid of these commies. Oh, you know I am. You know I am. All right, so Dr. Hinkle, or here, that's nothing. Their addresses. All right. So, Dr. Wolf, I have been the head of a group of some 20 civilian and military scientists who have been interested in the topic that we are going to review, which grows out of my awareness of its public significance as well as my interest in this General Department of Mental Health and Disease. Mr. Kennedy is speaking now. How long have you been associated with Cornell University, Doctor? I had a Cornell a professor at Wayne State from Cornell University. So this is university work from Cornell University. Dr. Wolf has been doing since 1931. Okay, so all right, I'm sorry. I'm reading right here on the air. Did you, you know, I know some of you probably could tune in and watch somebody read on the air. I'm not going to do that any longer. I said I was going to go through this. You have a really good idea about what I had to say about this, and without repeating myself, I was going to go actually through this to kind of give you because you didn't hear some of the things that I said. So I'm going to I opened it up to a page that I have highlighted. This may not be in necessarily the order. I just think that there are some important things that I want to say about this. So we're back to the robber's cave, right? So it seems to me what I am speculating about is that this is some precursor on how to train young boys in communism and following, just like we have right now, in creating sheeple, which is what I said that this group think is about, right? It's about how are we creating sheeple? And it's 3:00, and we started at 2:00, didn't we? Right? We didn't start at 2:30. No. Did we? No, we start at 2 to 3. And at 3:15 we read. So time is up and I have to go. But I'm gonna give you guys just a few more, and the reason why I'm gonna do that because I started just a little bit late. So it seems to me that they had to be transported to Oklahoma, like literally transported, as in a probably a long bus ride is likely what it was. Along the perimeter of this, which was by really deep in the woods, and also very planned, isolated areas that were very planned to be isolated. In similar areas, there are other studies which are, this, I can't remember, but it is also in conflict resolution, where they actually frame it as Russians and the United States in trying to cooperate. And the scene that they derive is very similar to this kind of scene. So it's very interesting to me, all of these studies that are being done in and around this time that are outcomes of World War II. Who is the Nazi? Who's the communist here in this plot as the plot thickens, right? So here around, now these are 11 11-year-old boys is what they are. 11-year-old boys who said clearly they were from middle class Protestant and all similar. They clearly were not all similar. They clearly had some that were very dominant, some that were very submissive, and it also looked like they also had mixed races here as well, which they did not report at all. All right. Okay, so keep out and restricted were signs. Now, why, if what you were doing was on the up and up, we don't have, we don't do studies here in the United States where we put keep out restricted on our university campuses because we're doing studies. So that is suspect there. I said hideout areas. So hideout areas, why do they keep saying hideout areas, but they don't describe it? What is this hideout area that they never talk about, but they keep saying that the kids prefer to go to the hideout area? And again, is this Robber's Cave? What happened? Is that a safe place? Is that where they feel safe there where they don't get something? Why? They are also isolated, and this word comes up, isolated, all the time. And to give you an idea of how isolated, a number of camping areas were located on lakes and rivers within 20 to 60 miles of the camp. These could be used to advantage in increasing interdependence of the groups through cutting off their usual sources of food, housing, etc. What does that even mean? I don't even know what that sentence means to begin with. But what it sounds like is that these kids had no solution within the nearby area. The closest solution was 20 miles away, is what that says to me. And that they were capable of cutting off sources of food and housing for these young boys who were 11 years old. I don't know who would do that except for a bunch of communists. That's who would do it. Okay, this is Dr. Annette Feravich in the philosophical classroom. I hope that you're following this along because we're just not studying answers, but I'm also proposing a lot of questions as we do in philosophy. So the philosophical classroom, this is Dr. Annette Feravich and I am the teacher. Thank you for joining me. 3:15, we are coming back with our book. We didn't like that other book. I didn't like that other book, not one single bit. So I changed it to Goosebumps. Be careful what you wish for. And I like this book because even though it's similar, I don't know, in themes or whatever, I always like scary stories, number one. And number two, this is so true for so many people that they've got people that they have to face all the time and they are just not very nice. So I think it's true to life. Okay. All right. I will see you in, 10 minutes.